France is known for its meticulous investigations into UFOs and has once again captured global attention. Since 2007, the country has led the world in systematically studying UFO reports, treating each sighting with scientific rigor. Now, new footage emerging from France has residents and researchers alike staring in disbelief, hinting at a mysterious presence moving through the skies. What exactly is passing through our atmosphere? And could this be more than just a fleeting anomaly?
This was out of place, unusual, not an aircraft.
1952 UFO sighting in France. Let's start with one of the most remarkable and shocking UFO sightings that ever happened in France, complete with multiple pieces of evidence and witnesses. Although this could not be recorded because of the year it happened, it revealed something unreal that can be compared to the recent UFO footage. On a clear afternoon in the southwestern French town of Oloron, Sainte-Marie, many witnesses saw a remarkable sight. According to witness reports, at around midday on 17 October 1952, a large cigar-shaped object appeared in the sky above the town. Surrounding this slender craft, there were about 30 smaller disc-shaped objects, moving in rapid zigzag paths. As the spectacle continued, something even stranger happened. The smaller craft started emitting a white fibrous cotton-like substance that drifted down to the earth, coating rooftops, tree branches, and telephone wires across the town. They revealed that the material looked sticky or gelatinous when gathered into a ball, and then, after a couple of minutes before their eyes, it vanished or disintegrated shortly after. What makes this incident even more intriguing is how detailed the accounts were. There were many witnesses who saw this UFO phenomenon. One of those was a high school superintendent who described the craft's shape, the smaller objects, and the trail of white material. One described the main craft at a 45-degree tilt, with a plume of white smoke escaping from its end. But of course, with this kind of phenomena, skepticism arrived quickly. Some French scientists and skeptics said that it might have a normal explanation. The angel hair might have been the result of a mass migration of spiders producing gossamer threads, naturally falling from the sky and mistaken for something alien. Others pointed out that the cigar-shaped object could have been an optical illusion or misidentification of a known aerial craft at the time. But the incident remains in UFO studies as one of the most unusual European reports of that era. The combination of multiple witnesses, unusual craft descriptions, and physical deposit of material gives it a level of detail that makes it even more realistic. This is also part of the angel hair phenomena, where web-like material falls from the sky in conjunction with aerial oddities. This is one of the key examples of this strange UFO sighting. Till today, everyone in France and around the world continue to ask questions about where this might have come from. Was it a natural spidery explanation, a misidentified experimental craft, or something more mysterious? While there were no photos, something even stranger is happening in France today. More than 7 decades later, some spotted a ring-shaped UFO, which was too good to be true. Ring-shaped UFO spotted in France. Just after 7:40 p.m., on a cool spring evening in South Paris, a driver heading home along the A6 found himself at the center of what many are already calling France's most startling UFO sighting in years. It started as an ordinary commute, but quickly shifted into something way more surreal. It was an encounter that stirred debate among aviation experts, skeptics, and deeply alarmed ufologists across Europe. According to the witness, who captured about 2 minutes of footage on his phone, the object first appeared as a dark mass suspended above the roadway. As he drew closer, its shape became unmistakable. It was a colossal black ring, perfectly symmetrical, smooth, and still against the sky. The witness described it as a massive tire, but hollow. It was like a giant floating donut just hanging there. Yet the deeper he drove into its shadow, the more unnerving the scene became. The center of the ring was open, revealing an untouched patch of sky framed by an object that showed no other signs of propulsion, support, or engineering recognizable as human-made. It had no wings, lights, exhaust, sound, seams, or markings. It was almost like a silent ring, dark as charcoal and steady as if it was deliberately placed in the air. It behaved as if it was floating on water instead of air, quietly shifting but never drifting. Cars around him slowed down as drivers craned their necks upward. Some of them pulled over. No one could understand what they were just seeing. For 2 long minutes, the enormous ring remained where it was. It was unhurried, unbothered, and eerily stable. And then, without warning, it shot upward and disappeared right in front of them. It was like it blinked out, but in a straight line. The object launches into the sky with sudden acceleration that barely captured its departure. Within a fraction of a second, it vanished completely, leaving nothing but a drifting silence and a shaken driver gripping his steering wheel in disbelief. The UFO footage from France revealed something unreal, and the video quickly spread online. Ufologists across France and beyond began poring over the footage. They noticed that the object's behavior, stability, shape, and acceleration didn't align to any known atmospheric phenomenon or aerial technology. Many researchers expressed their concern rather than excitement, noticing that the ring-shaped craft is a rare UFO sighting. It wasn't a drone or a blimp, and definitely not any experimental aircraft that we know. And that's what's frightening. Skeptics, of course, didn't believe that this was really something from outer space. They questioned whether it's a digital hoax, a misidentified weather phenomenon, or even an unknown atmosphere lensing effect, but none were able to convincingly duplicate the footage or explain the object's sudden vertical escape. Now, there's only a troubling question. Did something extraterrestrial slip quietly into and out of the skies above Paris? No one has the answer, but this UFO sighting strongly reminds us of a shocking case in France back in 1965, when a farmer found himself face-to-face with small beings. 1965 Valensole case. The saga of the 1965 Valensole UFO case remains one of the most enduring and enigmatic close encounter stories in UFO lore. On the morning of July 1, 1965, a farmer named Maurice Mas set out into his lavender field in the Oloron area near Valensole in southeastern France. It was around 5:45 a.m., and after a brief smoke break, he heard a strange whistling noise that he first assumed was a helicopter. When he circled around a small hillock to investigate, what he saw was nothing he could recognize from our planet. In the soft dawn light, Massey witnessed an egg or rugby ball-shaped craft that was roughly the size of a small car. It stood on 6 thin metallic legs with a central pivot anchored into the ground. To his shock, 2 small humanoid figures crouched near the craft. He could see slender beings in tight gray-green suits, possessing oversized, smooth, pale heads, with slanted eyes, pointed chins, and what Massey described as lipless mouths. To him, at first glance, they looked like children harvesting lavender, but he quickly realized that they were something wholly unlike humans. As Massey crept forward through his field, one of the beings suddenly turned toward him and raised a pen-like device. Instantly, he found himself frozen. He couldn't move a muscle, even if he could see and hear everything unfolding. The 2 figures quietly re-entered their craft. Without a sound, almost as if the legs retracted and the craft simply dissolved into thin air, it lifted off and vanished. Massa remained paralyzed for some 15 to 20 minutes before mobility slowly returned. But the stories didn't end there. When authorities, including the local gendarmerie, arrived to inspect the site, they found compelling physical traces. At the center of the landing zone, there was a circular imprint just over a meter across. Inside it, there was a cylindrical hole around 20 to 30 centimeters wide and 40 to 50 centimeters deep, and radiating outward were long grooves in an X-shaped pattern, matching the positioning of the craft's 6 legs. Also, the soil in that spot, which Massa said almost turned to liquid mud despite a dry spell in the region, now became something so hard that it looked like cement. The surrounding lavender plants died, and for years afterward, nothing would grow there. Soil analysis also revealed another shocking finding. There were elevated calcium levels at the site compared to the rest of the field. After the encounter, Massey suffered from lasting effects. He experienced sudden bouts of hypersomnia and profound fatigue, conditions that he had never experienced before. Still, people who knew him said he was a sober, sincere, and reliable man, so it was clear that the UFO sighting he reported was not a prank or lie. Over 1 decade after that, there was another UFO sighting in France, which also pulled attention to the skies of this country. A literal saucer landed in a field, just as crazy as the UFO footage from France. 1981 Trans-en-Provence. On the afternoon of the 8th of January 1981, somewhere near the quiet village of Trans-en-Provence in southeastern France, a retired stonemason named Renato Nicolai was working in his garden when a strange sound, a low, whistling hum, caught his attention. As he turned, Nicolai saw a saucer-shaped object descending from the sky, eventually coming to rest just 50 meters or so away on a terraced patch of land. The craft was 2 shallow discs joined together, about 2.5 meters in diameter and roughly 1.5 meters tall, colored like lead. It bore a ridge around its outer rim. Underneath, Nicolai also noticed 2 protrusions that looked like reactors or legs, as well as what appeared to be circular trapdoors. Nicolai was frozen in disbelief and watched as the craft hovered for a moment, and then, almost instantly, it rose vertically and kicked up dust, but emitting no roar or flame. Just like the ring-shaped UFO in France, this saucer vanished into the sky as silently as it had come. It left behind a scene that would soon draw intense scientific scrutiny. The next day, the authorities arrived at the site and documented what they found. Where the saucer had landed, they saw a circular impression roughly 2.2 to 2.4 meters across, with soil visibly compressed. Nearby vegetation was damaged, flattened, and scorched. Soil and plant samples were collected almost immediately and later passed on to the French UFO Agency, GEPAN. Their analyses were startling. The soil within the imprint seemed to have been subjected to pressures of 4 to 5 tons and temperatures between 300 to 600 degrees Celsius. Chemical residue detected in the area also included trace amounts of phosphate and zinc. Even more curious, the plants growing near the landing trace exhibited chlorophyll levels that were about 50% lower than expected. In follow-up inspections weeks later, including one on 17 February 1981, the mark remained visible. The soil had hardened into a crust, and no vegetation had regrown in the imprint. They could still see the pattern of concentric circles, abrasion marks, and zones of discoloration. All of these were proof that something heavy had touched down and exerted mechanical force on the ground. Investigators found no proof of conventional fuel, lubricants, or vehicle tracks. And about 10 years after this, another major UFO appeared in France again, this time to those aboard the Air France flight. 1994. Air France flight. Just imagine cruising at 39,000 feet above the French countryside, only to find yourself in front of a UFO. This happened on 28 January 1994, and aboard Air France Flight 3532, captained by Jean-Charles Duboc, the crew expected just another journey to London. But what they saw over the Paris region would turn into one of the most baffling and discussed aerial mysteries in modern European UFO lore. At about 13:14 GMT, as the aircraft glided above Seine-et-Marne, not far from Coulommiers, a steward in the cockpit pointed out what he first assumed to be a weather balloon on the horizon. The co-pilot verified the sighting. When Duboc glanced, however, what he saw defied any known category. It was a massive disc-shaped object, brown-red in hue, with vague and fuzzy edges, hovering below their plane but at a perilous altitude. The crew quickly realized that this wasn't a balloon. The disc spanned roughly 300 meters in diameter, or maybe even larger, making it beyond the proportions of any conventional aircraft. Its shape was mutable. At times, it resembled a bell, then morphed into a lens-like form before finally disappearing in a matter of seconds. At the same time, ground-based military radar recorded a target tracking across the Paris airspace. This matched both the time and bearing reported by the Air France pilots. The unknown object remained on radar for about 50 seconds, crossing the flight's path and then vanishing at the very moment visual contact was lost. Despite all the evidence, scientists and the government haven't found where this object came from and where it went to. This remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence of UFOs in France, as it was seen, with multiple witnesses, and even spotted on radars. Recently, there has been clear UFO footage from France, just like the ring-shaped UFO that was recently seen in South Paris. In 2013, Coulommiers saw another strange UFO in France, and the French UFO body is still investigating with no results. 2000 Castanet-Tolosan. In the early hours of the 1st of September 2000, over the quiet suburb of Castanet-Tolosan, just southeast of Toulouse, a lone witness saw something brief yet shocking enough to catch the attention of Gaypan. He reported that he saw a geometric shape made of luminous points, forming a triangle, hovering in the sky before disappearing behind a building. There was no noise or visible structure. There were only 3 lights arranged in a perfect triangle. The witness's view was fleeting, lasting only a few seconds, but it was so clear that he had to report it. What added an odd twist to the case was that at nearly the same time, radar at the local airport registered 3 unknown traffic tracks in the southeastern Toulouse airspace. It seemed to match the witness's report. But there was still some doubt. Some experts said that the radar contacts were judged to be not significant, likely artifacts or false returns caused by interference from normal aircraft in the area. As you can expect, ufologists reject this idea and believe that it could actually be from the 3 lights. Also in the same year, another strange UFO was spotted, seen as bright lights that we can't explain. 2000 near Saint-Afrique. On the night of 21st July 2000, in the quiet town of Saint-Afrique, a man and his son stepped into their garden around 23:30 to gaze at the stars. But the peaceful moment soon became strange. They noticed 5 lights blink into view in the dark sky, pure, white, and distinct. As they watched, some of the lights made short, sharp trajectories. A few even seemed to reverse course before vanishing, and then the lights blinked out one by one over the span of around 5 minutes. One of the witnesses managed to take a photograph of the phenomenon. That picture remains one of the few concrete traces of the sighting. It was not enough to explain what they saw, but enough to raise eyebrows when they later reported the event to the official French UAP investigative organization, GEIPAN. GEIPAN reviewed the testimony and photograph, alongside available atmospheric and radar data. While the lights might have been conventional aircraft or aviation-related, the erratic motion, particularly the sudden halts, reversals of trajectory, and sequential disappearance, did not match normal behavior for known aircraft. The UFO footage from France revealed something unreal about what's happening in this European country. France has seen a strange ring-shaped UFO floating right above them, and they can't believe where this came from. What do you think this UFO was? A spacecraft or just black mass? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.